So I've been very critical of The Legend of Zelda lately. Having played these games since I was a wee lad, I've grown up with specific ideas of what Zelda is. And I feel the latest open-air entries, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, have been straying too far from those ideas. Like, yeah, it's cool we get this massive open world to explore, go wherever we want, and craft our intrusive thoughts. Still, I would much rather experience a tightly knit adventure with carefully designed dungeons and an emotionally satisfying story. And no, I am not saying these games are bad. They're incredible in their own right, and I've enjoyed most of my time with them. It's just that they're missing the elements that make Zelda, Zelda to me. Well, Nintendo must have heard my complaints and said, well, Joey, if these new games aren't Zelda enough for you, here's a game where you play as Zelda. The tables have turned, and plenty of tables are here, so get ready. Yes, Echoes of Wisdom is the first mainline Zelda game where you play as Zelda. And I have to say the word mainline so pundits don't tell me, actually, you play as Zelda in Wand of Gamelon, Zelda's Adventure, Hyrule Warrior. Yes, I know, we're talking about the mainline games, not the spin-offs or the CDI atrocities. Please get a life, leave me alone. When this game was revealed, I was excited to see Nintendo go back to the franchise's roots with its top-down perspective, traditional dungeons, and oh, come on! I already despise these menus in Tears of the Kingdom, why'd you have to bring them back here? And are you telling me every puzzle can be solved with beds? This irritated me so much that I did what I do best. Seek validation on Twitter.com. I basically said I don't love the concept of Echoes of Wisdom, that being spawning any item out of the blue with the Wand of Gamelon, I mean the Tri-Rod. Here you mainly fight enemies by summoning other enemies, and puzzles can be solved in multiple ways. It seemed like Nintendo and code developer Grezzo wanted to make a Breath of the Wild style game and convert it into 2D. This didn't excite me too much, but you know what? I went out there and bought it just to see what it was going to be about. And honestly, it's pretty great. It's not anywhere close to my favorite Zelda, but I'm confident enough in saying that I was wrong about Echoes of Wisdom. You may laugh at me. Okay, stop. I can't take it. When I booted this game up, I got instantly hyped by the prologue. Oh, we're playing as Link first? That's cool. Wow, we're jumping without the Pegasus boots. That's neat. Lock on? In 2D Zelda? Has science gone too far? Imagine starting this game up completely blind, like not even seeing the box art blind, and having this be the introduction, starting with a Ganon boss battle, only to switch to Zelda. That would have led to some crazy reactions. In Echoes of Wisdom, Hyrule is being threatened by numerous interdimensional rifts appearing across the land, leading to a place called the Still World. Rather fitting because everything that gets sucked in there stays still. Now it's up to Zelda and her new friend Tri to save the world with the power of beds. I seriously didn't think I'd use beds this much in this game, but they were so useful until I got the water blocks. These should be illegal, and I guess they technically are since they break the laws of physics. This is the main mechanic in Echoes of Wisdom, the ability to create echoes of furniture, tools, and enemies. It's both highly ambitious and also divisive, but I think we can all agree the menu is atrocious. No matter how you organize it, it'll always be annoying having to scroll so far left or right to find what you're looking for, really slowing down the pacing. It's not game-breaking by any means and I got used to it, but there had to have been a better menu system than this. Going back to the echo mechanic itself, it's Zelda's only line of defense against the monsters of Hyrule. At least the most reliable, as you do get Link's sword early on, but it can only be used for as long as the blue meter allows. This gives Zelda her sword fighter form, and she'll be able to use arrows and bombs with it later on. When it's not being used though, you the player will have to gather echoes of monsters and sick them on the ones attacking you. Even though you can guide these beasts with lock-on, you're never in direct control of them, and that can get frustrating when they're not doing what you want them to. I felt this mostly in the game's opening hours, and I just used the sword fighter form as often as I could. However, as I got more powerful monster echoes, these battles were more fun, especially when I figured out how to time their attacks properly. If a Darknut echo was moving too slowly, I would spawn a new one closer to the target. Work smarter, not harder. I understand why some people wouldn't like this combat system because it is bizarre for a Zelda game. Just throwing monsters or even pots and pans at enemies isn't going to vibe with everyone, and it can get frustrating during some boss battles. But I felt myself get better the more I used it. I also felt better the more I used the bed echo because it actually heals you. Yes, it's slow, but it works. Still, you might want to make some smoothies to heal yourself, even though the process of making multiple smoothies is incredibly slow. What is the deal with Zelda games and bad menus lately? Before I get too heated, let's return to the echoes, since they're used in more than combat. They're often incorporated in puzzles, along with Tri's ability to grab things Ultra Hand style, but I love spawning a flying enemy to grab them and glide across gaps. Yes, if you use the echoes correctly, you can access a lot of the map early on, but there are still restrictions. You can only spawn a few echoes at a time, with some of the powerful ones taking up multiple echo slots. So it's not like you can spawn as many beds as you want. You'll be able to upgrade the amount of echoes by closing rifts in the game. The larger the rift, the greater Tri's level will go up, and the bigger rifts are found during the main quest. It gets way easier traversing the world with more echoes at your disposal. What I liked about older Zelda games was that sense of progression, finding items that would open areas you couldn't access before, something that's just not there in the new Zeldas. And while Echoes of Wisdom doesn't have items like hookshots or giant spinning tops, the upgradable powers help fill that void of progression I've missed from the series. I still wish I had a hookshot, but 4 water blocks will do for now. Echoes of Wisdom is definitely a blend of both new and old Zelda elements, and I think this is best showcased in the main quest, because it is both linear, but also fairly open. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom were so open that you could go straight to the final boss in the beginning. This is not the case in Echoes of Wisdom, as the first major story quest has you investigate 2 different rifts in the order of your choosing, and when you're done with them, another quest will open in which you must tackle 3 objectives, also in any order. Completing them will unlock the final challenge. This is a much better way to handle the main quest progression, while also giving the players some freedom of choice as the story can progress with some linearity. I couldn't stand Tears of the Kingdom's story because it was at odds with player freedom. Need I mention that the imprisoning war was explained 4 separate times because the game wouldn't know what order I was going to tackle the dungeons in. There are so many problems with Tears of the Kingdom's story that I've made whole videos about, so I'm not going to harp on them much longer. I just like how much better Echoes of Wisdom balances freedom of choice and story progression in its main campaign. It's just a shame the story itself isn't very interesting. Most of the characters are there to spout exposition, and any attempt at a deep, heartfelt moment felt forced and short-lived. The only thing that was slightly moving was the final cutscene, which I won't spoil here, but it would have felt more impactful if Zelda had any personality whatsoever. Like Link, she's a silent protagonist here, but that's not the problem, as Link has had many great moments in past Zelda games, all without uttering a syllable. Here, Zelda gives a blank stare most of the time and does the hand gesture thing where she's talking, but also not talking. And if you ever tell me that Zelda games have never been about story, I'm gonna slap you across the face. Please play Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword. Get some culture in your system, for the love of God. The lack of a compelling story is a bummer, but the rest of the game makes up for it with its gameplay mechanics, riveting side quests, of which I still have several to complete, and I cannot stress this enough, real dungeons. Not giant divine beasts, not half-baked attempts at open temples. I'm talking real Zelda dungeons, with locked doors, mini-bosses, and oh, look at that! Fast travel. That's a welcome addition. These dungeons do a great job of providing that classic Zelda feel while also incorporating the new Echo elements in their puzzle designs. The same can be said for their bosses, although I preferred taking them on in my sword fighter form when possible. It goes to show that you can have a great blend of new and old without sacrificing too much of the old. I get that I probably sound like a new Zelda hater or whatever, but I understand the series had to evolve in order to stay relevant, and if you saw the sales numbers of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, you know that they did their job. Man, they made a lot of money. I just think Echoes of Wisdom proves that there's room for both the new and the old. This game really helped bridge the gap between the 2 Zelda generations, with the new Echo mechanics opening up the world of Hyrule, but not so much that it becomes an unfocused experience. There's still linear story progression and those traditional Zelda dungeons I've missed so much. It's not a perfect game though, as the Echo-based combat can be frustrating and the story leaves some things to be desired, but after my 18-hour playthrough, I am confident it's a step in the right direction for Zelda. Oh, my mistake, I forgot to mention one thing. The frame rate. Oh my god, it's terrible. Look at those dropped frames. Can you believe it? Am I playing a game or a slideshow? Seriously. I got used to it. The Switch is almost 8 years old at this point. What did we expect, really? The Switch 2 is going to come out next year anyway, so we just gotta hold out a little longer and just enjoy the games we're getting on Switch this year.